Hello, 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 greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of greeting across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear scholars, once again to the study. I'm so grateful to see you all there. Hello, Aseo, welcome. And hello there, Julian20, welcome as well. Oh, um, as you might have been aware, um, a certain event happened a little bit ago. Oh, hello there, Dr. Zadium. Welcome. To explain, Horace and I were doing some mild fixing up in one of the obscure parts of the study, and we unfortunately ran into a book kraken. I told Horace to make a run for it, and I tried to escape as well, but I took the brunt of the attack. Um, Even for an omniversal interdimensional being such as I, being attacked by a book kraken can be quite devastating. So I was laid up ill for approximately, I want to say, 3 days, 3 or 4 days. Um, I am still somewhat recovering a little bit, so you might notice my energy levels are a little bit lower than normal. But I am doing the best I can, and I appreciate all of you being here. I want to give a special shout out to Horace, my wonderful Horace, for keeping you all abreast of the situation. Okay, you can stop snickering at that word, Horace. So I thank you all for being here. Sayo, I will be lurking. I am working on stuff, but I'm glad to have you back. Don't push yourself and enjoy the movie. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, indeed. I thought rather than doing a reading stream, which takes quite a few bit of energy for myself and my voice, I might, excuse me, do a movie stream for you all. It's been quite a while since we've watched a movie together, and so I looked through the study library of films, and I thought it might be a good idea to watch a movie. I realized we haven't watched a film about Sherlock Holmes, one of the greatest detectives in mystery literature. And it just so happens that a few of the classic Holmes films are in the public domain. So I have picked one of those tonight. Um, oh, before I ask, how are you all doing? I've talked so much about myself. How are you all doing, my dear scholars? Dr. Zadium, doing all right. Thank you. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear about any of you feeling well. Just the opposite of myself, I suppose. um, but yes, tonight's feature film that we shall be partaking in is 1945's The Woman in Green, starring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. A little bit of background around this film. It is the 11th out of 14 Sherlock Holmes films that the two of them were in, and it is the ninth film, I believe, that they did for Universal Pictures. Throughout the film, I will be doing a little bit of trivia, talking about the movie, maybe discussing a little bit of how it's different from the books. Otherwise, we really are just here to enjoy it and have some fun. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of talking. So then, I see. My dear scholars, shall we begin the movie? Or is there anything else you would like to know before we start about the picture or Sherlock Holmes? or any information on this film in particular? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, it's very silent. I suppose that's right to be in a movie theater. Dr. Zadium, I think we're good to go. All right, all right. Well, my dear scholars, let us part the curtain then and prepare ourselves for the woman in green. Dim your lights, treat yourself to a nice snack. They are allowed in the cinema room here in the study. The only room actually I think you could actually eat other than the kitchen, which is still missing, by the way. We're still looking for it. So sit back, relax, and let us begin. The woman in green. I hope it's everyone can hear it. All right. Fun little fact here, every single one of the Universal Sherlock Holmes films starts with this title sequence. They kept them uniform. Ironic given this is a black and white film. Kid Sean, salty card, yes indeed. I actually don't. Now, on yeah, Roy William Neill actually directed almost all of the Universal Sherlock Holmes films, except I believe 2 of them.
I won't forget that morning, not if I live to be 100. I counted the men as they marched out of the yard. They'd hardly slept for weeks. We of the CID had slept even less, but the nightmare that kept us awake was all the same nightmare. That's why we weren't surprised when the commissioner asked us up to the conference room for a bit of a talk. He'd talked to us plenty, we knew that. It didn't help any to know what was ahead of us.
Now you'll be noticing that this isn't set in the Victorian era.
Must we have that window open, Gregson?
This is in the 1940s. And Universal actually at the start of their film series decided to move Sherlock Holmes forward in time for, let's be honest, propaganda reasons during World War II. Irony.
Be seated, won't you? Gentlemen, if you wish to know what able men you are, read any of the works of popular fiction that glamorize your achievements, but don't, I beg of you, read the daily papers.
Alien 20, I remember this part. Oh, you've seen this film before then.
Inferiority complex. I hate to mention it, but we're confronted with a series of the most atrocious murders since Jack the Ripper. And in the meantime, the CID might as well be playing at shove
In 20 many times. Oh.
For all the good we've accomplished. Now look. Here, and here. Each of these red flags scattered through the city stands for a woman brutally murdered. A woman's terror.
Ooh.
A woman's death agony.
Okay, thank you for the descriptions.
These are the works of a fiend who kills first and mutilates afterwards.
Nice.
A ghoul who hacks off a part of his victim body and carries it away with him. A loathsome souvenir of his butchery. 3 women.
Might turn it up a little more. Okay.
And you haven't turned in one
give me
clue.
1 second.
You haven't given me one lead. Here you sit and wait for news of a 4th victim. With your arms folded.
Is that better?
Well, we hadn't long to wait. It was down Lambeth way where a young
Is that
woman was
better,
hurrying home
scholars?
late last night. She saw something and stopped. It was a constable. He spoke to her and he walked along with her, just in case. He saw her go down the stairway to the basement lodging where she lived.
I'm describing this, viewers,
We
even
can
though
only
you can see it
surmise
right in
what
front of your
happened
eyes.
after that.
Now, these Sherlock Holmes films were more or less what you might consider B pictures at the time, meaning that they weren't. Oh,
Well, I put my pride in my pocket and went to see the man who'd so often helped out Inspector Lestrade and myself in the past. Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
now this is interesting. The inspector who's talking is Gregson, who is in the Sherlock Holmes stories.
If ever a man
And
needed help,
if I
I
recall, appears actually more times than Lestrade. Firefly Evening.
This makes four,
Kinshon.
Inspector.
It sounds like they adapted from radio plays for the
Four
films.
defenseless women here in the heart of London.
There's actually an interesting
and
thing
every
with
one
that.
with the right forefinger hacked off.
The
Not
radio
hacked,
plays came
Inspector
after the
Gregson.
movies.
Cleanly, expertly severed. The work of a skilled surgeon.
I
That's our only
mean,
clue.
Basil Rathbone and Nigel
Much
Bruce were
about
both
the
doing
age
the
of my
radio
sister's
plays
girl.
and
Is there no way of
the
stopping
movies
this,
at the
Mr.
same
Holmes?
time.
Yes. There's a way, somehow. The fiend that did this. I promise. I promise.
We've nothing to go on, that's the rotten
Obviously, the
part of it.
censors won't let us see
We can't get
anything
far
of
without
the
knowing the
murders,
motive.
so.
At least we know what the motives were not. It wasn't robbery, nor passion, thanks be, nor yet vengeance. Because they all came of totally unrelated families. Steady, Inspector, steady.
Sorry, Mr. Holmes. I don't turn a hair when it's a bloke that can look after himself. A little slip of a thing like that.
Yes, it's horrible. Come on, let's get a drink.
Yeah, can't talk. Interesting choice of venue for a drink.
Good evening, Mr. Holmes. Good evening, Vincent. Whiskey and soda, please, and a double for my friend here, Inspector Gregson. There you go, sir.
Make mine Irish. Decent of you to give me a hand with this thing, Mr. Holmes.
Always a pleasure to be of help to Scotland Yard, Inspector.
Little out of my line, looking for a maniac who murders just for the fun of it.
Or perhaps just to get a human finger.
Now, there were actually some changes
All
done
four
for this
cases.
movie, which I will explain later
Murderous capture.
as the film
It's
goes
possible
on.
to secure a finger.
The censors did jump in.
What for?
Who knows?
Kinshon, Gregson,
He's
and
just
studying
mad.
Scarlet Heat and Lestrade were always trying
Perhaps
to
there's
one-up
method
each
to
other.
his madness.
Oh, interesting fact there.
If we could just trace those missing fingers.
Lestrade has
If-
appeared several times
If we
in
could just
the
drain the English Channel, we might find a
in
penny.
the
Huh?
Holmes
Oh, thank you.
films with Basil Rathbone
Thank you
and
for it, Mr. Holmes. Thank you.
Nigel Bruce. But at the time, I believe his actor was busy with another movie, so they
George Finnick, isn't it?
substituted
Yes.
Gregson
That is daughter,
in for the
William.
film.
Don't be so naive, Inspector.
You know everyone, don't you, darling?
Well, hardly. A week ago, I didn't know you.
A week. How fast it's gone.
I collect these things.
How very quaint of you.
Shall we go?
Yes.
Excuse me.
What are you looking at, Mr. Holmes?
How many of you, dear scholars, have watched the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes films before?
Would you like to come to my flat for a nightcap?
Lovely idea.
Yes, isn't it?
Wonder where she's taking Sir George Fenwick.
Don't be so naive, Mr. Holmes.
Problematic. A whole lot of smoking, yet no guts. Well, you'll see. You'll see. I have. I will admit I have seen all of the Rathbone films, and out of them, I would consider this one of the better ones. It is also one of, I believe, only 3 of the Rathbone films which is in the public domain,
Good evening, Mum.
Hello, Grandma.
due to
Any
the
messages?
No, Mum.
copyright never being renewed.
Drinks, Crandon. One of your nice surprises.
Yes, Mum.
I say, you don't mean that,
Crandon's a marvel, aren't you, Crandon?
Yes, Mum.
You wouldn't believe the things she can do.
Ah, charming place. Delightful.
Really? Do you think so? I'm so glad.
All except
Yes,
that
madam.
sofa.
Do you mind?
Do I mind? What a question.
There's a distinct
mind
lack
anything,
of
really.
bookshelves in that room.
Except not being with you.
Now, you really don't want me to believe that, do you?
Not too seriously.
Good. We're both quite grown up, aren't we?
Quite.
You're a treasure, Crandon. And lower the lights a little as you leave. I prefer a more flattering light.
In any light, you'd be...
Would I?
And don't you know it?
Perhaps I do. Oh, that priceless
Cool
music.
Skeleton. Hello, I'm
You
missing the
wouldn't
movie.
believe it,
Ah,
but it's very
you haven't
romantic.
missed much, Cool
She
Skeleton.
loves the
Welcome.
music and she thinks that
There's
we-
murders going on all around
We do,
London,
don't we?
Do we?
apparently,
Well,
and
it's
Holmes has
rather
been called
soothing.
in.
Restful.
Yes. And we all need rest at times, like tired children who played too long. You've played with wooden soldiers, I suppose.
Funny. Hadn't thought of that for years.
Toy boats were my special joy.
Cool Skeleton. Oh, is this
Anything I
Sherlock
could
Holmes?
set up
Yes,
for
this
them.
is one of the Sherlock Holmes films from the 1940s.
And this toy boat sailing into the Never Never Land, the land of beautiful dreams.
You know, the fact that her dialogue is so suspicious
Yes, isn't it? How
isn't
nice you
ringing any red alarms in this
Little
man's
specks
head
of
is
light that move
kind of amusing.
and move, like stars on a slowly moving stream.
You know, Holmes, I'm very sensitive to atmosphere.
No.
Yes,
Ah.
I can tell by the feel of this room there's been
Good old
American
Nigel
here.
Bruce
Thank you
as
for
Dr.
you to know,
Watson.
my dear fellow. It was the other side of that door at the foot of the stairs that the poor girl was murdered. If only I could find it.
Find what?
The one thing these unfortunate victims have in common that might give us a motive for these murders. There must be something.
Another Jack the Ripper, if you ask me, a homicidal maniac.
No, Watson. In the case of Jack the Ripper, there was one thing in common. His victims were all from one walk of life, living in the same section of the city. In this case, the murderer chooses his victims from all walks of life and from different sections.
Notice they
of the
don't
city.
say
No, my
what
dear fellow,
walk of life those
This is
victims
not
were
the
from.
work of a homicidal maniac. It's something infinitely more sinister.
Give me the creeps. What on earth are you talking about?
Watson, I'm convinced that these murders are only
Cool
incidental.
Skeleton. Quick
to
question.
some
What kind of
larger and
popcorn do you
more
prefer?
diabolical scheme.
Buttered,
Maybe,
cheesy,
but why
caramel
the
corn?
severed fingers?
The answer to that
I'm a
question, my dear fellow, is our only hope
traditionalist.
of
I like
solving these
buttered.
mysteries.
Dear sister, I am so happy. I had such a lovely holiday at Brighton with you.
Horace
and
prefers
I'm looking forward to
cheesy.
being with you again. Poor little thing. Sort of raises a lump in your throat. I can picture her sitting here happily writing this letter, and I'm not bit realizing that she's shortly going to her death. Hello? Gregson?
Cool Skeleton. Cheesy popcorn is yummers, indeed.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Holmes. I've been looking for you everywhere.
What's happened?
Murder in Edgware Road, not half an hour ago.
Woman?
Yes, and the right forefinger cut off clean.
I think someone has had quite a bender, don't you agree? Private Maverick, man, I like buttered or cheesy popcorn. Also, kettle corn's pretty good. Firefly, Aldi has a nacho cheese popcorn seasoning that's really good. Ooh, nice. Sounds good. Cool Skeleton, get one of those holiday popcorn tins. Yes. Excuse me.
Morning paper, all about the murder. Paper, horrible murder. Another young woman found murdered. Paper, sir. Horrible murder. Paper, paper. Read all about it. Get your paper. Murder in Edgware Road. Horrible finger murder. Shocking murder. Murder in Edgware Road. Horrible murder of a young woman.
Cool Skeleton, why is it always that a vulnerable woman gets murdered? That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Only fancy, Mum. There's been another of those horrible murders.
Dear, dear, how shocking.
Yes, Mum. I really don't feel quite safe here myself. Oh, dear.
Truth be told, though, the original script from the movie, it wasn't vulnerable women
Why, Sir
who were
George?
getting
I must
murdered.
see Miss Marlowe at once.
I don't know if she...
I must see her. Where is she?
In fact, the censors, the
Lydia.
what was it? The
Sir
breen
George.
censor, the breen
What is
censors,
it? What happened?
I don't know.
um,
You'll have to help.
had a
You've got to
very,
help.
Oh, I don't
very
understand.
Listen,
harsh thing to say
woke
when
up
they
a few
saw the
minutes
original
ago.
script.
in a cheap boarding house off Edgware Road.
Now
I don't know
notice,
how
my
I
dear
came there.
scholars,
I don't know when. The last thing I remember is being here with
The
you.
Calm yourself.
the camera angle is slightly
leave?
tilted, just enough.
Well, it was about...
This is what we call the Dutch angle.
It was
Sophia Ignacy, is this
10:45,
film in the
Mom.
public domain?
Precisely.
It is in the public domain, Sophia. Welcome.
You seemed... forgive me.
Dutch angles
Just a
are
little
used in
distressed.
cinema to suggest that,
Not interested.
give it an
I
off
thought I'd
feel,
said something to offend you.
that something is wrong.
I don't remember.
So this scene put in this angle is meant to suggest, you know, just how
I can't.
something is wrong
Tell
mentally
me.
with him,
Has this happened to you before?
or some form of distress.
Before?
Well, there is such a thing as amnesia, you know.
Sophia, oh damn nice. The Dutch
It
angle
was
makes me feel
10:45
dizzy.
when I left.
Oh dear. There's one
9
Holmes
this morning
film,
when I woke.
which is not in the public domain, I don't
Over
think,
10 hours
which is
lost.
almost entirely in Dutch angles. They
10
went a little
hours I can't
overboard with
account
that one.
for. And in my pocket when I woke, I found... Yeah, in my pocket.
Firefly, that's something is quite not
Oh,
quite
it's
right.
not for you, of course.
Cool
It
skeleton,
can't be.
LOL, yes. You know, that bothers me. What he
Excuse me,
found in
Mom,
his
There's
pocket,
a man asking to see the gentleman.
you would think he would
Send
have
him away.
much
Yes,
bigger
Mom.
reaction to what it
No,
is
no,
than
no,
what we
no,
saw,
please.
which
I see
seemed
him.
more like slightly mild disgust. Firefly, which one? I believe it was Sherlock Holmes and the Voice of Terror.
Well, delightful room.
Uh.
Not much like the place you woke up in this morning.
You followed me here?
Yes.
Are you a detective?
Oh, no.
I think this actor is so fantastic in this role.
Don't be afraid, Sir George.
You know my name?
Oh, yes.
Is it?
A very old and highly honored name. And being the bearer of such a name, and also a very wealthy man, I thought you might care to possess yourself of this trifle. Rather than let it fall into the hands of the police. It is yours, if I'm not mistaken. The initials, GF.
Where did you get this?
It came out of your pocket.
This actor
I saw it
is
fall, but you never noticed.
Henry Danielle, who was
were
in
very
two
busy.
other Holmes
Bending over
films.
something.
Sherlock Holmes in,
With a
in
knife.
Washington and The Voice of Terror.
Then you put something in your pocket.
Cool skeleton. Imagine an entire movie filmed with the camera tilted. Yes. Oh dear, that would be quite dizzying.
Come along, Holmes, come along, come along. How many more times must I tell you? You're missing a treat. This is delicious. Little jam tarts to follow. Aren't you tempted?
You
There-
and your flesh pots.
There have been fans who have
They
complained
tell me that
of
this is good for the brain.
Nigel Bruce's portrayal
haven't
of
any.
Watson being a little bit.
You realize that a day, a
More
whole day and a
comedic,
night have
let's
gone
say.
by since that bestial affair in Edgeware Road? I'm as much in the dark as ever.
Others have said that what Bruce did as Watson was allow
Well, he
him
comes at times,
to
unless I'm very
be
much mistaken.
noticed beyond the shadow of Holmes, in a way. By making him comedic, he makes a good
Attractive.
counterpoint
Very attractive.
to Holmes. Cool skeleton, yes, this Watson seems a
Obviously,
bit
she
off.
left
Should have
Tom
done a
under
Dutch
discretion, somebody
take.
gave him notice.
How do you know that?
She isn't wearing any gloves. A startling omission in a young lady of fashion.
No, she didn't put her coat on. Open car, too.
Furthermore, there's something in that bag she wants to show me.
What makes you say that?
Bag doesn't match her dress, indicating it was picked for size rather than style, to accommodate some bulky object.
You amaze me, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear fellow.
Once again, I believe Holmes never said elementary in any of his
Oh,
stories.
that's interesting.
What is?
A cab, turning at the empty house.
He's like,
Wonder why he followed her here.
Oh, wouldn't you?
Far across from the glasses.
Firefly, what year is this? Is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be the year it was filmed in, 1945. The Universal films, as I mentioned earlier, actually did a
so now-
time jump
Yes,
to
Mrs.
the
Hudson?
to the modern day of that time.
It's a young lady, sir. Most urgent.
Ask her to come in.
Go right in, miss.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, this is my friend Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
How do you do? Mr. Holmes, you must excuse me, please.
Yes, well, won't you sit down?
Come along.
May I? It's quite all right. Thank you.
In fact, The Voice of Terror, the first Holmes film for Universal, has a big introduction where they talk about how
with friends.
You
the
know my
spirit
name?
of Holmes
No
is
magic, I
universal.
assure you. I've often seen your picture. You're the daughter of Sir George Fenwick, aren't you?
Yes. It's about my father that
What about your father, Miss
She
Fenwick?
looks
Oh,
familiar.
I don't know what to do.
Let's see.
He's always been the nicest, dearest person. Only since Mother died.
Yes, yes, we know.
So I didn't think anything of it when he
That
was away
is
or
Eve
right before
Amber.
last. But he didn't come home until yesterday at tea time. Didn't come in for dinner at all.
Who
Just
plays
paced up and down in the library hour after hour. I begged him
plays
to let
Maud
me in, but he wouldn't.
Fenwick.
Steady, steady. Now take your time.
I couldn't sleep a wink last night. Then I started hearing things.
Hearing things? What sort of things?
I heard someone in the garden underneath my window. Then I saw a figure moving down the garden path. And I recognized my father. Stealing through his own garden like a thief. He had a spade in his hand. And he stopped by the greenhouse where he started to dig. This morning, at daybreak, I stole out into the garden and found this.
Firefly, is she in Dracula? She is not. She apparently only did 3 films in her entire career.
A human finger.
Bring up Scotland Yard, will you, Watson? Ask them to get hold of Inspector Gregson and tell him to meet us at once at George Fenwick's house, Kingston.
Operator, get me Scotland Yard quick.
Where's my father, Norris?
Firefly, something about her profile reminds me of one of those actresses.
Will you come with me, please?
I see.
I got your message, Mr. Holmes. Yes, indeed.
Excuse me.
Dad, may I come in? Dad. It's funny. 20.
Julian 20, classic look for the
Holmes?
time.
You mind?
Oh dear.
Please do.
Thank you. Watson, quick.
Oh,
Come along,
no,
my dear.
no, no.
Take charge, Miss Finnick. Please.
Another murder. Whee!
Come along with me.
Firefly, yes, it could be the eyebrow makeup.
Dead?
Yes.
What do you make of it, Doctor?
Shot in the back, between the second and third ribs. The bullet undoubtedly penetrated the heart. Look at the powder marks on his coat.
I was afraid of this.
What do you mean?
Don't you remember the man in the cab who followed Miss Finnick to Baker Street?
Well, you don't think he had anything to do with it, do you?
I think it's reasonable to assume that he tipped off someone that I'd been sent for. Sir George has obviously been murdered to keep him from telling me what he knew. What was the weapon used?
Small caliber revolver, point blank range by the look of the wound.
The murderer came in through those French windows. The mud from the garden he brought in his boots. Sir
Very
George must have
clumsy there.
surprised the intruder. Passed the room to him here. What follows we can't tell. But from the location of the wound, I'd say that he turned his back for a moment, and as he turned, the muzzle of the revolver was placed between his ribs and one muffled shot fired.
And you mean to say he kept on going, even after he was shot?
There's no doubt about it. Look there. The trail of blood leads us back to the desk.
Again, it would be helpful if we could see this.
Something.
I know. He was trying to summon help, poor chap.
I don't think so, Watson. There's the bell pull by the fireplace. No, you'll notice from
Firefly,
the trail
what
of blood,
conveniently clear footprints.
Sir
Yes,
George
indeed.
made straight for this desk here. I wonder. There was something he was desperately anxious to get. Hello. His right hand's clenched.
That's perfectly natural. Death agony.
But the left hand lies open. Why only one hand clenched in the death agony? The right hand, the hand nearest the desk. Please note that. If Sir George took something off this desk, something so important that he spilled his last drop of blood to get it, I want to know what it is.
Oh. Oh. Oh, that noise. Oh.
Nothing but an ordinary match folder.
Where does that lead us?
I imagine to something very important, Gregson. This match folder's from Pembroke House.
Why shouldn't it be? He was there, you know. We saw him yesterday.
Yes, but the effort he made after he was shot to get hold of this match folder. It's just possible he wanted someone to remember Pembroke House. He may have wished to recall it to someone who saw him there. Someone who, like ourselves, saw him with a woman.
Interesting little note about the Universal films is they did an interesting little thing with their plots, in that they would
Oh, yeah?
often take existing Sherlock
Oh, Dr.
Holmes
Watson,
story
this came by
plots
hand for Mr. Holmes, not
and
10
then
minutes ago.
slightly
you,
take
Mr.
plot points from those stories and transplant them into the movies.
That would be the report from Sir George's bank.
What from Sir George? Oh, really?
Don't you remember his daughter told us that he'd just closed his account? Had it looked into at once. He drew out his entire balance in cash, nearly £10,000, yesterday, just after that young woman was murdered.
Ooh,
What does that suggest you,
suspicious.
Watson?
But he paid it out to someone.
Precisely. I smell the faint, sweet odor of blackmail.
You don't think he paid it out to someone who saw him murder the McLean woman?
Sir George never murdered anyone.
But he did have that woman's finger, and he evidently did have and pay out a lot of cash.
This film doesn't
terrifying part about
exactly
blackmail,
do
Watson.
that, but
The
it
victim
does
is afraid to
include
fight the accusation, no
two
matter how
plot
false.
points
Once the accusation
from
is made,
two
name
Holmes
is
stories,
smeared, and sometimes his life is ruined.
which I'll point out when it comes up.
Sir George didn't commit these murders. What fiend did?
I rather think they're not the work of any one man.
Oh, come, Holmes. You don't expect me to believe there's a whole organization going about killing people and chopping off their fingers.
No, it's possible, quite possible.
Well, whoever's behind all this thing must be out of his mind.
On the contrary, my dear fellow, if my assumptions are correct, this little scheme has behind it the most brilliant and ruthless intellect the world has ever known.
Of course.
You don't mean Professor Moriarty?
I do.
Oh, steady, Holmes. You've got him on the brain. This is the third time in as many months you've suspected him of unsolved crime.
Of course he's in
He's
this.
dead, you know.
Is he?
Is he? You know he is. He was hanged in Montevideo, well, over a year ago.
I know that someone was hanged in Montevideo under that name, but I'll stake my reputation that Moriarty is alive and here, now in London. Hello? Yes, but Dr. Watson, wait a minute.
You me? Oh, yes? This is Dr. Watson speaking. No, I'm afraid I've retired. I don't practice anymore.
This will be the third movie in the
Oh, that's a different
Rathbone
thing.
Bruce films
Emergency
that
case.
has Moriarty
Well, just a
in it.
minute.
And in
Yes,
each of those
yes,
films,
well,
Moriarty
she's not
is
moved.
played by a different
Remember
actor.
that? Don't touch it till I get there. Fractured case in McCardle's Mews. Heavy woman. 14 stone. Look at dust. 14 stone. Just the sort of person who would hoist herself up on a stool to feed the canary. There ought to be a law against fat people keeping little dicky birds. Well, so long, old man. I shan't be very long. Haven't used that bag since I brought little Amelia what's-her-name in the world. She grew up to be a very unattractive child. Oh, who wouldn't with a name like Amelia? Oh, Amelia. Amelia.
Kintron, it'd be interesting to get cast as Moriarty. I agree. It would be interesting since you do have a lot. You have some leeway to work with him. Firefly, well, that's disappointing.
People so stupid about accidents.
Cole Skeleton, I guess Watson is going to feed the canaries. Yes. Who is this? Who is this mysterious shadowy figure? I like this Moriarty so much. He is so good in this role.
Oh, Professor Moriarty. Not that I wish to appear inquisitive, but to what am I indebted for the pleasure of this visit? Scotland Yard will be interested.
It's very convenient for me to have Scotland Yard think that I'm still dead in Montevideo. I never dreamed of fooling you.
Thank you.
The thought occurs to me, Mr. Holmes, that there are some advantages in living within the law. You are very comfortably fixed here, aren't you? As I get on in life, the little comforts appeal to me more and more.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
And now, Professor Moriarty, what can I do for you?
Everything that I have to say to you has already crossed your mind.
And my answer has no doubt crossed yours.
That's final?
What do you think? I shall not rest until you are hanged for the finger murders.
You've no proof, you know.
No, not a shred. But I have you. I could turn you over to the police.
Again,
here
the Dutch
and now.
angle on
You could.
Moriarty.
But if you did, you'd never see Dr. Watson again.
Oh, the telephone call.
Quite.
I rather assumed you had taken some such precaution. Or I should have snatched up a revolver and indulged in a fit of heroics when you came in.
Very smart, aren't you?
Not smart enough, or I should have anticipated you. But if any harm comes to Dr. Watson, I shall seek you out. I shall not rest until I find you, and when I do...
No harm will come to Dr. Watson this time. But I can't answer for the future. Mr. Holmes, I should strongly advise you to drop this case.
Don't be silly.
Think it over. We've had many encounters in the past. You hope to place me on the gallows. I tell you I shall never stand upon the gallows. But If you are instrumental in any way in bringing about my destruction, you will not be alive to enjoy your satisfaction.
And we shall walk together through the gates of eternity, hand in hand.
What a charming picture that would make.
Yes, wouldn't it? You know, I really think it might be worth it.
Some small bits of dialogue in that scene are taken word for word
Shoelaces,
from
Governor?
The Adventure of the Final Problem,
And strong enough to hang yourself.
How
which
many more times must I tell you I don't want
technically
your
was
filthy
one of the few
shoelaces or your
stories to
company?
feature Moriarty.
Shoelaces, Governor?
Blasted impertinence. Run along, my good man, or I'll give you in charge.
Shoelaces, Governor? Shoelaces, Governor? Help a poor bloke. What's only got one arm? Any luck with Mr. Holmes?
You can read his obituary in tomorrow's papers.
Oh, there you are, Watson. Come in. I was, just going out to look for you.
Look for me what for? Suppose you don't think I know my way about. Well, you're right, I don't. Blast all practical jokers anyhow. Know where I've been?
On a wild goose chase.
Exactly. There's no such number in McCardle's Muse. Some fool's idea of a joke.
Just have to adjust myself.
Did you see anyone?
No, nobody especially. Only a whining old idiot selling bootlaces.
Persistent beggar, wasn't he? Stuck to you like grim death.
Huh? How do you know?
And finally left you for someone who looked like better pickings. Someone, my dear Watson, was Professor Moriarty himself.
What?
He's just called on me.
Moriarty here and you let him go? But you must be out of your mind. Why?
Well, he bluffed me into believing that he was holding a friend of mine as hostage.
Friend of yours who?
Oh, nobody very important, just a fat, lazy fellow.
Is that
Medical man, I
slow?
believe.
Medical man? Do I know him?
Yes, I think you do. Fellow by the name of Watson.
Watson, never heard. Who, me?
I'm afraid so, old fellow. Your street hawker's job was to do away with you in a certain contingency.
And you let Moriarty go? Because of me?
I had no choice.
Aw,
Can't afford to lose you, old fellow.
that's so sweet.
Very decent of the old chap, I must say, but... I wish you'd nabbed him.
We shall, never fear. I know the motive for the finger murders. All I have to find out now is the method used with the blackmail victims.
Method?
Yes. How does Moriarty get them to the scene of the crime? How does he plant those severed fingers on them? And how does he scare them into believing that, they may have committed those atrocious murders themselves? Curious.
That's interesting.
Very curious.
Curious? What's curious?
If you know anything about certain
That
Sherlock
window
Holmes
in the
stories, you might
empty
know what
house
that
across
means.
the street. First floor front.
Huh? What's wrong with it?
It's open.
Why shouldn't it be open?
Well, it wasn't open half an hour ago. I'll stake my life on that.
Well, that's not our business. Let it stay open.
I, wonder if you'd go over, old fellow, and see what's the matter.
Trespassing. Against the law.
Very well, I'll go myself.
Oh, well, if you're going to put it like that, ridiculous waste of time. Going about shutting windows at this hour of the night.
Here, you better take this torch.
Well, take what... Dignified job for a doctor. Dr. Watson, the torchbearer. And what do you propose to do? Sit in a comfortable chair, I suppose, and read a good book?
That's a very good idea.
Yes, very good idea. While I play night watchman, you have a nice read.
Good night, have a good time.
I can't blame him for being annoyed. I mean, just ran a wild goose chase and now this.
What on earth is for? Oh, umbrella stand. Pretty little thing to keep about the house.
Sophia Ignacy, how
Bit
much
of
time
pep.
is left in the movie? I'm not sure. We haven't gotten to the end. We started a little bit later. Now, if some of the music cues might sound familiar, the composer for this movie was the same one who composed some of the Universal horror films. In 20, about 45 minutes. More or less. The movie itself is 68 minutes.
Right, Barbara.
Sophia acknowledged it because I'm enjoying it. I don't want to miss it.
Well, he sits comfortably reading a book.
Excuse me. Oh my goodness.
Stop it!
Oh,
He killed Holmes! He killed Sherlock!
Watson.
You?
so this is a
I
plot
found you
point
a second ago.
directly out of The Adventure of the
Merely a bust
Empty
of Julius
House.
Caesar. Incidentally, you may have noticed that all through the ages, prominent men have prominent noses.
He shot the Roman bust. Sorry if I talked over that.
Oh, I'm afraid we're in for terrible trouble again with Mrs. Hudson. Windows smashed, plaster all over the floor. Get up, you.
Corporal Williams, Middlesex Regiment. Discharged from the army as physically unfit. Huh. Papers seem in order.
Now, Corporal Williams, you've seen service in the Far East, haven't you?
The East.
I thought so. Look at his complexion, Watson. Yellow as saffron. He's been taking atabrine. Cure for malaria. Sniper, aren't you?
Sniper.
The movie's more or less quite
Why did you try
smart
to
with
kill
this
me?
plot point.
I had to kill him. I had to.
Oh, snap out of it.
Stop it, Watson.
He's shamming.
No, he isn't. Who told you to kill me?
She told me.
She told you?
She told me I couldn't miss.
Well, luckily you did miss, you murderer.
Isn't a murderer, Watson. Listen, Corporal Williams. She told you you had to do it, didn't she?
I had to do it.
I've got it, Watson, I've got it.
Got what?
The method used in the finger murders.
Well, what is it?
Hypnotism, my dear fellow, hypnotism.
So here's the
It wasn't
thing.
against his nature, that's the
Yeah.
devilish part of it. They picked a man for their purpose whose job was sniping.
Who are they?
Professor Moriarty and his finger
That's
murderers.
technically
You
thinking
spoke
about
of a woman.
hypnotism if you believe in that such
I think
things.
you'll find that she asked him home
A
tonight for drink.
hypnotized individual can't do
Nice quiet
anything
rooms.
that's against their nature.
Soft lights, music.
You got it all pat, Mr. Holmes. What's
So the
lady
film
look like?
gets that right.
Up 30, nice figure, blonde, lustrous eyes.
Oh, really? Got a phone number?
Shh.
Oh, so?
Williams will give us her address. Look after him, Gregson. Don't let anyone come near him.
Poor man.
He's our key witness in the finger murders.
Well, I hope you're guessing right, Mr. Holmes.
Get up, Williams. Now, go with Inspector Gregson anywhere he tells you.
Come on.
Technically, could they charge him for the crime? I mean, he is hypnotized.
Ring me as soon as he comes to himself, will you?
I will. Good night,
So
gentlemen.
technically, he did it against his will.
Well, if you believe that fellow Williams was hypnotized, I suppose you think Sir George Fenwick was hypnotized too.
Yes, I'm quite sure of it. Have a cup of tea?
Thanks, old boy. Nothing to eat. Well, why didn't these people make Sir George do the murder himself?
Because they didn't want to get him hanged. They wanted to blackmail him.
Kinshawn,
do you
involuntary
think the actual
manslaughter,
murder
maybe.
is?
That is true.
One of Moriarty's gang. A diabolically simple technique. Kill a woman.
Yes, but why cut off the fingers?
My dear fellow, don't you understand? The severed finger is what links the blackmail victim to the murder. He wakes, finds the grisly thing in his pocket. Doesn't know how it got there. He's no idea that he's been hypnotized. For all he knows, he may have committed the atrocious crime during some dreadful lapse of sanity.
In that state, when he's utterly demoralized, the blackmailers take over. Is that it?
Undoubtedly. You see, they swear that they saw him commit the murder. And being human, the victim will pay anything rather than stand trial on a charge that will make his very name loathsome.
Oh, it all fits in if you believe in hypnotism.
The only possible explanation.
You think the hypnotist is that woman with the blonde hair and the lustrous eyes, the woman you invented?
I didn't invent her. I saw her.
What on earth are you talking about?
That woman, my dear Watson, was with Sir George when he left Pembroke House. I saw her there. I shall see her again, and Williams will lead me to her. That's why it's so important to keep him safe. He will identify her. Hello? Yes? Inspector Gregson? What?
Oh.
I'll get every constable in the district. Yes, I'll be over at once.
What's happened, Holmes?
Williams is missing.
Great Scott!
Come on.
Cool Skeleton Man didn't even get to sip his tea. Yes. Oh dear, oh dear.
Lorry crashed into Gregson's car. During the confusion, Williams disappeared. No, kidnapped. To keep him from talking when he came to.
You don't think that Moriarty...
Moriarty? Anything is possible.
Oh. Well, I think they found him.
Dead. You see? Anything is possible.
Unit 20, I could use some tea. Oh. Tea actually sounds really good right now. Horace, how much tea do we have left? That little? I'll have to find some more then. Okay, so,
Oh, good morning, Professor Moriarty. You startled me.
with this,
I'm dressing another dolly. A dear little nurse.
there is a reason he's playing with a doll in the
Is there
in the
anything
movie.
wrong with your finger?
Just a splinter.
Nasty thing, splinters. Most
Cool
trying.
Skeleton. I'm not a tea
One
person. I can
can't
handle
be
some coffee, but the
careful.
caffeine doesn't affect me much.
I'll
Oh,
get it out.
interesting.
I have the very instrument.
In the original script, it wasn't vulnerable
Sharp
women
enough to split
who was
a
being
hair.
killed
Put those tools away until they're needed.
But they're
by the
not
murderer.
Tools, sir. They're instruments.
Put them away. Is Lydia in?
In the original script,
But really, you
it
should
was
let me-
children being killed,
Get dressed.
which the Breen
Holmes and
Council,
Watson
who was
just
in
left
charge
Baker
of
Street for the
censoring
Mesmer Club.
things
Mesmer
at the
Club,
time,
the meeting place of all the top hypnotists in London.
was in a big uproar
Do you
about.
suppose that Mr. Holmes is onto our method?
If he suspects,
Kinchon, I
merely a
figured most
suspicion.
drinks would just go straight through you,
it's our
Skeleton.
business to see that it ends there.
Logical.
I hope you're right.
So they removed
Williams
that from the
passed away
script and
before he could talk.
changed it to the current,
What do you want
version.
me to do?
Go to the Mesmer Club, meet Holmes,
which is
and induce
probably
him to
for the
come back
best,
here.
honestly.
Isn't that a bit dangerous?
Every meeting with Sherlock Holmes is potentially dangerous. However, you say he didn't see your face at Pembroke House.
And how would you suggest I get Mr. Holmes to accompany me here? Kidnap him?
Oh, no. Holmes has one weakness, his insatiable curiosity. If you can arouse that, you can lead him anywhere. It's up to you to take advantage of any opportunity that may arise.
This way, please, gentlemen. I'll tell Dr. Onslow that you're here.
Thank you.
Coming up
This
is
the
another
Mesmer Club.
coming up is another scene that was cut out of the script originally.
Oh, come
Well,
on,
he's
Watson. As a
changed.
medical man, you must admit that hypnotism has its place in modern science.
That may be, but 90% of hypnotists are crooks of the worst kind. Nothing more than a lot of charlatans exploiting weak-willed morons.
Dr. Onslow, I believe.
Happy to meet you, Mr. Holmes. Your brother Mycroft suggested I might be of help to you.
Ah.
He's a valued member of our little group of
Mycroft.
Charlatans and crooks.
Beg your pardon, sir. I didn't know you were listening.
Kinchon, the only woman to ever get
My
truly
friend,
get a
Dr.
rise out of
Watson.
Holmes is
Oh, right.
Adler.
How do you do?
She
Well,
actually gets
enough. You see,
referenced in
we're in
another
a little
Rathbone
experimental session
book.
at this very moment.
Rathbone
If
movie.
you'd,
My
care
apologies.
to join us?
Cool Skeleton
Certainly.
Minecraft.
Well,
Not
will you
quite.
Follow me?
Thank you.
Billion 20. Mycroft is awesome. This is the only time Mycroft is mentioned in these films.
As we now call it, is considered by innumerable physicians. Especially is of value in surgical cases where the administration of local or of general anesthetic is inadvisable.
Inadvisable poppycock. Oh, sorry.
For the sake of latecomers, I may say that I have placed this subject under profound hypnosis. In this condition, he can feel no pain, even under applications which normally would be excruciating.
Excruciating.
You excuse me, please.
Watson's an awful
Carter,
audience member.
you are having a peaceful sleep. You feel nothing.
Again with the
Your
Dutch
arms
angles.
and your hands are without sensation. Mowbray, the long needle.
Okay, if you have a fear of needles, please turn away now.
Carter, give me your right hand.
Yeah, I should have warned about this. Or at least they don't directly show it.
As you observe, the needle has been thrust completely through the subject's hand. No feeling, no pain.
Oh,
This
thank
lack
you,
of
Lorelei,
feeling
for the
is
hydrate.
one infallible test of profound hypnosis.
Also, hello, welcome, Lorelei.
Fellow's full of drugs. Oh, isn't he?
Definitely not, Doctor.
Wake up, Carter, wake up. You feel well and rested, remember. No pain anywhere. Wake up, wake up.
I say, when are you going to begin?
All through, Carter. Stand up.
I think that's actually kind of a clever little
This way, sir.
thing.
And, are these all the people that come here?
Oh, no. Others keep dropping in all the time.
I suppose it's all right for those who believe in it, but of course, I'm a professional man myself.
Then you don't believe in hypnotism, Dr. Watson?
I don't deny that there are certain types of hysterical, feeble-minded people who go on if you point your finger at them. But anyone with an ounce of character...
How right you are. You see right through
Kinshon,
our
no-
little artifices, don't you, Doctor?
Right through, my dear
No
sir.
breeding on
Right
the hand, but still sensors.
But with the feeble-minded, as you say... excuse us, Mr.
Oh,
Holmes.
certainly.
Step over here, won't you?
Skeleton,
Yes,
what?
sir, anything to oblige.
Let me show you
Kinshon bleeding,
how
yes.
easily we charlatans take advantage of them. Now, sit down, Doctor. Now, we set a thing like this in motion.
I don't think this will actually hypnotize anyone, but if
Wonderful,
you
the
get worried, if you worry,
on the feeble
glance a
minded,
little bit to the side.
The continuous motion, if they just let themselves follow it. Of course, you could stare at it till doomsday, Doctor,
Excuse me.
with no effect at all. Still, it might make you a little drowsy, like the white ribbon of road at night when you're driving. The rhythm
Cool
is
skeleton. I can stick needles
smooth,
through my hands, and I don't bleed, but mainly
unbroken.
because I don't have blood.
and the road goes on and on.
That makes sense.
Round and round. Always the same, winding and winding. And you're drowsy. You're tired. Let the road come into you, as it were.
What?
The long road.
What?
The smooth road.
What?
The road to sleep.
Kinshon, I love how they reference highway hypnotism, yes. Which I believe is a real thing that can happen.
Open your eyes.
So here comes the
Stand
next part that was originally changed in the script.
Turn around. And now, Dr. Watson, you're on a holiday in Scotland.
Kinshon, it
The
is.
country
I
is
have issues with it if
amazingly
there's nothing to
beautiful.
distract me.
We're coming to a stream.
Cool skeleton.
isn't deep.
Swirly circle.
Better take your shoes and socks off. Roll up your trouser.
So, in the original script,
That will do. The other leg is waterproof.
he doesn't
Turn around.
roll up his
Mind the pedals.
pants leg. In the original script,
Sit down.
Watson takes off his pants. And yes, the Breen censors had an issue with that. Pragmatic, but we're not in Japan, Mr.
Yeah, I
Holmes.
see. What did I tell you? It didn't work with me. Why, nobody with an ounce of character.
I think you'll need these.
Nothing to laugh at.
Watson, she's here.
The woman you're looking for?
Yes, I'm going to meet her. Perhaps I can induce her to take me to Moriarty.
Do you think it's wise, Holmes?
It may not be wise, but essential. After all, I've held my own with Moriarty in the past.
But isn't it dangerous? She might be a hypnotist.
If my will isn't stronger than hers, I deserve to be hypnotized.
I feel I must protest, Dr. Onslow. I was told this was a gathering of serious students of a great science, and I find myself in a company of buffoons.
Oh, my dear madam.
Elliots and Esdale Braid. Were those men martyrs for the truth? That you may laugh over your childish, cruel tricks?
Sure, that's a reference, but I'm not sure
what
what
it is.
it
This was a most
is.
unnecessary performance, Dr. Onslow.
Beg your pardon, sir.
My name is Holmes, Sherlock Holmes. At your service, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I'm afraid I've created a rather embarrassing situation. But you see, I'm interested in the serious study of hypnotism.
So am I, too.
Perhaps we have something in common, Mr. Holmes.
Perhaps we have. Would you join me for a cocktail at Pembroke House?
I should be delighted.
Good.
What is this place anyway? I mean,
thank you.
Is
I
it a
didn't know there was such
restaurant?
pleasant place in London.
Is it a
It was so
hotel?
nice of you to suggest our coming here.
It
I
seems
thought
a
it
little
was picked
fancy
up, but
for
it
a
was
public
good.
house.
You mean you thought I looked...
I like the way you look.
Thank you. I suppose I did lose my head a little at the Mesmer Club. But you see, hypnotism is almost a religion with me. I
Cool
know so
skeleton.
well what
It's
it
a
can do to
train.
heal.
Raw movie.
And I can't
That's
bear to see
the
it used for trivial purposes.
next
I know
one,
very little
actually.
about it. That's why I went to the Mesmer Club. You see, I'm rather puzzled just now with the case that I'm working on.
How fascinating. Tell me about it.
It's the murder of Sir George Fenwick.
Cool skeleton.
Penny?
LOL. Yes.
Who is he?
Quite a well-known figure. Odd now I come to think of it. Last time I saw Sir George was here at Pembroke House.
Strange.
Yes, isn't it?
Excuse me.
He was sitting, I believe he was sitting at this very table. Cigarette?
Thanks. Do go on.
Kinshon, often the older gentlemen's
There was a
clubs and
charming lady
such would
with him.
provide rooms
He
for
was,
demonstrations as well as dining.
Lighting a cigarette.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Back when everyone smoked.
Charming. Did you see her face?
No worse luck. Merely her back.
How unenterprising of you.
Yes, wasn't it? Afraid I'm getting a little older.
I shouldn't say so.
That's nice of you. Still, the first time in my life, I've got hold of a case that's beyond me. I'm actually losing sleep over it.
You know, Mr. Holmes, I believe I could help you.
Really? I should be very grateful.
You're amused.
Oh, merely skeptical. How would you go about it?
I've used hypnotism more than once in healing.
I
Not for
remember. I
profit.
believe smoking was
I'm not a
considered
professional.
fashionable back then.
But I do
Yes,
think I
it
could help
was.
you.
There was quite a culture back
If
then
you
of it.
care to...
I can't think of a pleasanter experience. Low lights, music, is that all there is to it?
Interesting.
You must relax, Mr. Holmes. I'm afraid you're a rather difficult subject.
Interesting music choice.
So I thought perhaps a little help. Materia medica might be advisable.
Drugs? No, I'd rather not, if you don't mind.
As a matter of fact, I'd rather not myself. But Schrenknotzing he practiced in Munich, you know. Believed it the best means for difficult subjects. Do you mind?
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't approve of sedatives.
Just as you wish. We don't have to go on with this at all, you know.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. All right. I'll take a chance.
Kinshon,
It's
oh
really
no, not
quite
opium. Holmes would never use them.
Cannabis japonica, an oriental soporific.
No, technically it's not opium. It's, given what they call it. Apparently he's taking marijuana. Cool skeleton drugs. Wee! Oh no, obviously, as Kinshon said, Holmes would never take drugs.
Thank you.
Kinshon, wait, she just said it was cannabis. Yes, she did.
You'll feel yourself growing drowsy. Don't fight it. Give in to it.
You're also feeling
Because you
quite
do want to
hungry,
sleep,
too, for some odd reason.
Just fix your eyes on this one white flower.
American Last Dance with Mary Jane and whatnot. Cool
Empty your
Skeleton's special
mind
tea
of every
leaves.
other thought. Follow the motion of the water. So smooth, not a ripple. Waters of forgetfulness. Steady. Deep. Strong.
That's a really good shot for the film.
Strange, isn't it? How the light is reflected. Little
Skeleton
specks of
hypnotism.
light that move and move. It's restful here. It's peaceful.
Kinshon, slight problem with her having two reflections though. I noticed that. For a second there I thought it was someone else also in there. But it does seem like they accidentally slipped up with that point.
The guilty ones. When you're rested, gentle waters closing over you. Steady.
Firefly, the world is quiet here.
Deep. Strong.
Darn, I looked away. Skeleton, nah, it's just the tea leaves.
Down.
What is keeping that swirling still? Control, they just had her maid hiding by the column, but still. Yeah, that's gonna bother me now.
Sleep. Sleep. Sleep.
Perchance to dream. Let me see if that's mentioned as a groove. Prime Maverick, I wonder if he was given some ayahuasca? Not sure what that is. In 20, is there a stir bar in it? Good question. Oop, gotta flip to side B.
Here he is, Professor Moriarty. Stand up, Mr. Holmes. Open your eyes. Face this way.
Let's see. Stroking the back of his neck, the cannabis, the soft speech, things that put most to sleep, including
Are you
the music.
satisfied?
We are dealing with a clever man. He may be shamming. There's just one infallible test for profound hypnosis. You ready, Dr. Simnel?
In 20. Oh no. Oh no.
That will do, Doctor. He couldn't fake insensibility to the knife.
Cool Skeleton, I looked up what
I congratulate you,
Asahasaka
Lydia.
was, and apparently it's used as a sedative. Oh!
Turn round, Mr. Holmes. Now walk to the desk.
Let's see. If I recall. Yeah, if you look very
Sit down.
carefully, they actually remembered a little bit of continuity.
pen
in that you can
write what
see
I tell you to
there's
write.
a line on the back of
I have at last found a case which I cannot solve.
Holmes's neck showing where the knife was. Kinshon, can't fake no reaction to the
I
knife.
have outlived my
Yeah, you can.
usefulness. Therefore, I have decided to end my life. Sign your name.
Excuse me.
Now
I'm
blot it.
still a little weary from recovery, so pardon my dear scholars.
Fold it up. And put it in your pocket. Come, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Go out onto the terrace.
Skeleton, hope you get
But
well
it
soon.
won't look like suicide,
I hope so
sir.
too.
I'm sorry, but Mr. Holmes' injuries must all be self-inflicted. Let's walk a little, Mr. Holmes. It's so pleasant here in the garden. Just step up here onto the terrace. It's a nice, broad terrace.
Anyone here afraid of heights?
Turn to the left, walk slowly to the end of the terrace.
Oh dear. Kintron, note actually reads Moriarty's alive and thinks I've hypnotized. Alien 20, me. Oh
Don't
dear.
stop. You must walk to the end, you know.
Excuse me.
The end leads to an open doorway. You can pass through it in perfect safety. In the room beyond the doorway, you'll find what you've been looking for.
Must you drag this on?
This is the moment I've been anticipating for a long time, my dear. Go on, Mr. Holmes.
Oh dear, Moriarty.
Through the open doorway, you will find the man responsible for the finger murders and the death of Sir George Fenwick. Professor Moriarty.
The down shot was not good. Oh!
Stand still.
That was quick.
What a beautiful view, Watson. I'm quite enjoying it.
No, you're not. You're hypnotized. You're under a spell. Stand still. Don't move. Steady, Holmes. Steady does it. Stand perfectly still where you are.
Nonsense, Watson.
You don't know what you're doing.
Of course I know what I'm doing.
You mean you're not hypnotized?
Certainly not.
Then get off the wall, you idiot. Oh, look out! Holmes! Oh, oh.
Dear fellow.
What were you doing up there?
Holding the fort until you arrived. What kept you?
Well, I ran into a spot of trouble on my way to Scotland Yard. I was arrested for exceeding the speed limit.
Your luck seems to hold, Mr. Holmes.
I'd hardly call it luck, Professor. You see, I substituted a drug of my own for the one that this dear lady pressed on me.
You are clever, aren't you?
A drug that, although it leaves the subject conscious, renders him quite insensitive to pain. That accounted for my lack of reaction to Dr. Simnel's knife. Well, Gregson, quite an impressive haul. Even Inspector Lestrade himself couldn't have done any better.
Thanks, Mr. Holmes.
Take him away.
All right, put her in the van.
I was right, Mr. Holmes. You are a difficult subject.
Thank you. And now, Professor, our score is settled. Au revoir until I see you on the gallows.
The rope has not been made that'll go around my neck.
Come on.
Well.
I'll take care of things, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Inspector.
So, in every appearance that, whee!
Evil
Yes.
man, Holmes, but what a horrible death.
In every appearance Moriarty has made in the Rathbone
What are you
Bruce
thinking of?
films,
I'm thinking of all the women who can come and go in safety in
he
the streets of London
he
tonight.
dies by falling, which is a little
Stars keep watching
Easter
their
egg
heavens.
reference to his fate in the
And in
final
our own
problem.
little way, we too, old friend, are privileged to watch
Kinshot,
over
the
our
rope has
city.
not been made that can go around my neck. No, no rope has been made that can't get around his inflated ego. Well, that was The Woman in Green. Here we have our players. Great shot. Oh, I agree, it's a fun one. Skeleton green. I don't see any color. Yeah, true. Okay. Hey, let's skip the propaganda. Yeah, let's skip the little ending propaganda there. Again, it was made in 1945, so they had to slip that little bit in there. So, let's head over to the chat area, and we'll close out this rather short night then. And we'll do a little bit of chatting. Okay, and here we go. Here we are, my dear scholars. So, my dear scholars, what did you think of the film? Private Maverick, not a tall, cool woman in a black dress. Rats. I'm curious to hear your opinion on the film, my dear scholars. Did you like it? Did you not? What scenes did you like? What scenes didn't you like? It was fun, thank you, Dr. C. It was fun, yes. Oh, good, good. Cool Skeleton was decent for a movie made in its time. Private Maverick. Despite coming in late, it was a neat film. Alien 20. I like Watson denying the hypnotism. Oh, that scene was great. That was funny. That was a good laugh. Yes, out of the films, this one I consider one of the better movies in the Rathbone Bruce film series. Alien 20, a bit if needed humor, yes. I mean, the film without that would be a fairly grim plot. Um, for those who want to continue watching the Rathbone movies, Kinshon, good movie. Felt like if could have been a serial with the music cues. Makes me think authors forget Watson got married. Um, yeah, some of them do. Some of them do. It very much depends, of course, on the version. Cool Skeleton Cannabis. Don't do drugs, kiddos, or anyone. Good for you, Cool Skeleton. Thank you for the what is it? PSA. PSA. That's the word. Oh, my dear, my brain. Yes. The For those who wish to continue watching any of the Rathbone films, I can make some recommendations. The best film I consider in the series that I highly recommend seeing is the Scarlet Claw, which is a sort of weird proto slasher film with a very Columbo-esque twist to it. Firefly, him being married kind of removes him from the flat, so I can see why they dropped that in most of these. Julian 20. Oh, that is a really good one. Yeah, I mean, even Conan Doyle kind of dropped the married angle for Watson, I believe, later on, and had him just move back into the flat. I believe there was some odd reference to somewhere about Holmes apologizing to Watson for his loss, I think. I haven't read some of the Holmes stories in a while, so I might be remembering it wrong. Yes. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. Um, yes, I'm hoping my health will continue to improve in time for next week. Alien 20. Perhaps you should read some. I have read some in the past. In fact, my dear scholars, if you have any interest, you can check out a few of my Sherlock Holmes streams that I did on my YouTube channel, which you just search for Matsu Quinox on YouTube, and you can find them in my previous streams. Kintron, with the way most are written, it's Watson remembering the past, so the timeline of the stories is all over the place. Yes, indeed. And in fact, I must mention, Kintron, you've done some readings of the Sherlock Holmes stories as well, haven't you? And I think, are you still reading A Study in Scarlet? So if you have further interest in some of the Sherlock Holmes stories, I would suggest, checking out Kintron's channel as well. He does some fantastic readings not only of Sherlock Holmes but fairy tales, and I believe he's done some horror tales as well. Kintron, that's the one I'm in now, finished Adventures and Memoirs. I thought so. I thought so. So yes, my schedule for next week. I am not going to keep you long since I do need to get some continual rest as well. If my health improves well enough, and everything points to that being a yes, next week, Firefly. Wiki says Mary died by the Norwood builder. Oh, yeah, I thought so. If my health improves enough, next week, we will be doing Tuesday, we'll be doing more Tome, and if I'm feeling well enough, I will try to do an extended um, reading stream of Sky Island to make up for the missing time for this week. which I hope to see you all there for. But again, this is tentative, so I can't promise anything specific for that. Cool Skeleton, eat some soup, drink some juice, rest up. I will do my best. I have Horace here to help take care of me as best he can. He is so helpful around here. Let's see if there is anyone we can raid at the moment. And then we will close out for this evening. Okay. Oh, I see Sophia Ignace is streaming, so we will raid her. So for now, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, till we meet each other again in the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Farewell, and bye-bye.